I have gotten countless emails and questions about a topic that everyone in almost every industry is talking about these days, which is AI, artificial intelligence. And the questions that I get are essentially, should I even get into surface pattern design? How is AI going to affect this industry? And should I bother when it feels like artificial intelligence, AI, could be coming to steal my job? Let's dig into this topic and talk about what it really means for the surface design industry. The first thing we want to talk about when we're talking about AI is, what are people actually concerned about? There are two main concerns if you are working to build or already have a surface pattern design career. The first concern is that programs that create generative images with artificial intelligence would be used by clients instead of paying humans to create artwork. So, where I have freelance clients and I have licensing clients who come to me to either design something specific for their needs or are looking for really fun art and look through my portfolio and see something cool there that they want to license, the concern would be that these clients would then turn to programs and just simply type in Santa Claus with presents all around his feet. And that would create an image that would be suitable for their products, and they wouldn't then need an artist to create. The second concern that people have around AI as an artist is that because AI is gathering sources throughout the internet, that our art, our intellectual property, would be gathered and used in order to create these designs that art directors are using. So therefore, art directors who are making a prompt and could then even say, design a Santa with presents all around his feet in the style of a certain artist, or with a look that is similar to these few references that I found on Pinterest. Right now, I don't think that that is currently an option. You can definitely name an artist, but I don't think you can give visual references to a program and let it create similar things. I'm not totally sure because the internet is a wild place. But in general, that kind of technology can't be very far away. So the problems that we are worried about as artists are our clients not needing us and our art being stolen. These are serious problems. These are things that are cause for concern. And I definitely understand why this is a huge conversation in the creative world right now. I'm going to give you some information and we're going to talk about what this could mean going forward. But before I do, I want to remind you that no one can predict the future. We don't know how AI is going to unfold. And so what I'm saying right now and what I'm basing my opinions on, truly that could change in 3 days. So if you're watching this in the future and you're like, okay, all of this happened or all of this didn't happen or things took a left turn, I mean, look, we can't predict the future, but let's talk about where we are right now. So I'll admit, as a designer who came up, I graduated college in 2003. And as a designer who came up in the age of the internet and with computers, my very first job, I was already designing with computers, with digital help. Even though in college, most of my designs were hand painted and I created repeats with tracing paper, I only had one single course that taught Adobe Illustrator and Adobe Photoshop. But I grew up in a digital age. And I'll admit that all this AI stuff is kind of scary. It feels like, wow, this really could take things over. But I do want to point out that as if I was maybe 5, 10 years older, I would have seen a lot of this kind of conversation happening as Adobe Illustrator and Adobe Photoshop came on the scene. So my first job in 2003, I worked for a bedding company. And, as a 21-year-old, 22-year-old, I was basically the youngest person who worked there. And there were a lot of people who would tell me about the time when, designing on a computer was not the standard. Before Adobe Illustrator and Photoshop, before some of those other programs, like I worked on a program called Ned Graphics, before some of these other industry programs came along, every design was hand painted. Every colorway was hand painted. Every color chip was hand mixed and hand painted. And certainly when the computer came along and the idea of printing out color chips multiple times, being able to change colors at the click of a button came out, there were real fears around losing jobs. And less man hours and probably less people were needed as Illustrator and Photoshop and computer designing came onto the scene, because what would have taken all day to repaint one design in a second colorway, maybe it takes an hour, maybe it takes 2 hours, but it doesn't take all day. It doesn't take a week for a really detailed design. So we've already seen this kind of technological progress, and designers have been able to use it as a tool and build on it and not be completely eliminated. So keeping that in mind, I think that it is definitely possible that AI is going to eliminate some man hours, for sure eliminate some man hours, potentially eliminate a few jobs. But I don't think it's a matter of fully eliminating humans because of the creative spirit that's required, and someone has to have an artistic brain in order to make these things work. I want to tell a little bit of a story that I saw on Threads recently, and it was an anonymous art director, and from what I could gather, he worked for some sort of, motion picture type situation, and I think he was doing scene work, design backgrounds. I'm not fully clear on what the job description was, but basically his story was that this, as an art director, the studio had decided they didn't need designers and they were going to go with AI prompters. And so they hired a bunch of AI prompters to type in detailed descriptions of whatever kind of background scenes they were going to need for this movie. So the art director described what happened, which was he got a bunch of options laid out for him from these AI prompters who handed them in. And he looked through them and he said that there was a couple that were decent and there was a lot that weren't great. As an art director, he wasn't happy to be working with AI prompters, but it is what it is. And so he was trying to move forward. And so he gave notes and revisions, and the people took that back and tried to get the AI image engine to make those changes. And that's when stuff started going really off the rails. So subsequent versions started getting really weird and basically got further and further away from anything usable. So first of all, AI couldn't handle it. But the second thing he said is the AI prompters, the people who were working to typed this in didn't really understand at all his vision of what he needed to happen. And so they were getting really frustrated and really mad that these revisions weren't up to snuff for what he needed. So his takeaway was, first of all, AI is getting worse, but the people can't handle it. And in the end, they got nowhere near what they needed, and the studio had to fire the prompters and hire real designers. So that experiment had failed. If you've been working in this industry for a while, hopefully you've realized, and even if you haven't been working in this industry, if you've been watching my videos, you realize that flexibility and being willing to take revisions and suggestions to make your work more marketable or more towards the end product is a key factor in being a commercial artist. If you watch my interview with Jill Lebenek, we talked about this as well. And it is a key factor if you're going to be a commercial artist. If you're going to work for clients, you do need to be able to take feedback. And so that's a skill that we all build up. But AI prompter people do not. And they also didn't have the artistic vision to understand what kind of things the art director was really looking for. Never mind what the computer was thinking. The people couldn't really handle that. So that story is likely to play out in a lot of different ways in this industry. As clients try to get something that they're looking for, they're probably going to start to have some issues with AI not understanding, with people not understanding, and not being able to make those technical changes, those specific changes that people who have been in the industry for a long time really understand need to happen to make a product sell. So the next point I want to make about AI art is that similar to when Photoshop and Illustrator came on the scene, and specifically Illustrator, a lot of art started being made with Adobe Illustrator, and it was new, it was exciting, it looked cool, and it was very popular for a while. If you look back through the type of art that was trending in 2010, for example, you'll see that it is very vectory and very shape-driven and very much created on Adobe Illustrator. Now, I am a big fan of Adobe Illustrator, and I still use it all the time. However, these days, it's much more in style to have a lot more texture, a lot more of a hand-drawn feel. So if you can't do that in Adobe Illustrator, then you should be using a different program, trying to make something that looks a little bit more organic rather than as sterile as some of those older designs used to be. So the reason that I'm bringing this up is right now, when you see AI art, a lot of it has a similar look. Right? It has a kind of a sheen to it that has this fantasy style almost. And it's kind of obvious right now that it is AI art. And I'm not saying that the technology won't improve, because like Illustrator, we used to use it really basically, and then we got really cool brushes that look more realistic, and then we're able to do new things. But you know, the AI style may trend for a while, but eventually there is going to be a backlash. People are going to be tired of looking at that style. So even where some clients and some companies may be okay with that type of look, after a while, it's going to fade from popularity. So there is a possibility that this will take on a life, but it won't last forever. My final point on this is that there will always be art directors who need and want the human connection. As we get more disconnected in this world due to technology and due to social media and due to video conferences and remote work, similar to the Adobe Illustrator backlash, I think we will find that backlash of we need human connection. We need conversations. We need to get on the phone or on a call, Zoom call or whatever with someone and talk point by point about artwork and specifically the vision and what things are going to work, and give direct feedback to someone that really understands. And I know that the relationships that we've built in this industry are so important, but a big part of it is also the human connection. If you happen to see the panel I did for the Art Brand Alliance, Margot Tanto was on my panel, and she has been a creative director for years and years at some of the major art licensing brands out there. She does windowsill chats as well, and she's had a couple episodes about this, so definitely check those out. I'll put them in the description. But her take on AI is that as a creative director, she does want that human connection, and she will not be turning to AI. And so I think that we can say, again, we can't predict the future, but there are definitely going to be clients that are going to turn to AI. Look, there are clients who buy patterns and illustrations off Shutterstock for $30 or off Etsy for $10. There are always going to be clients who are all about the budget. And if, describing something into Midjourney can mean that they can have a product with art on it for a very low cost, then that's going to happen. But there are also going to be clients who want to have real design work. So I think we'll start to see a separation of lower end client potentially shifting to AI, but definitely we're going to continue to see those quality clients still wanting the human connection, wanting the creative brain power of a human. And for that reason, our work is not going to completely disappear. Going forward, I would say your best option is to consider AI a tool and continue to improve your craft, okay? That's always going to be important. Practicing your work and creating the best art you can, the most marketable, the most beautiful, the most creative artwork that you can muster is always going to be important. I have a few resources for you to consider when we talk about the idea of AI stealing our art. You can look into Glaze and Nightshade. Both of these programs are being developed and new versions keep being developed, but basically it's a filter you can put over your art before you post it online. And for both of them, it sort of like changes the pixels and the metadata and whatever AI tech stuff looks for. And for Glaze, it basically protects it, almost like it's putting sunglasses on it, and so therefore the AI scrapers kind of bounce off and can't really do anything with it. By putting a glaze on it, you're protecting it and you're making sure no AI can scrape that data and say, okay, like this is the style of a flower, this is what a Santa Claus looks like, this is whatever, based on your drawings. And if you do the Nightshade filter, you are actually actively poisoning, that's hence the name, poisoning AI. So it shifts things enough that apparently when AI reads your image, if it's been filtered through this Nightshade, it will go on the offense and try to, alter and take down the AI model. So that's like an offensive thing. I don't know all the tech around it. I know people are doing this to their images before they post them on Instagram or before they post them on the web. And my understanding is right now it is a slow process. Like it takes some time for each image to be processed. But this is definitely a way that you can start to protect your work. And I think that this will start to be built into more and more programs. I read an article recently about Wacom doing something built in So I'm not sure how this is going to evolve, but there are going to be more and more resources. For now, I will put those two links in the description, and as time goes on, if I hear about more, I can add them to description as well. Also, I'd encourage you to check out Windowsill Chats. It's a great podcast. And like I said, it is with Margot Tanto. And this is one of the topics she's been talking about. So definitely check out what she has to say on the subject as well. I really respect her opinion. And she has a pedigree in this industry. She's been in it for so long. I know you guys are concerned about it. I know this feels like a very stressful time for artists. But I will say that the best we can do at this point is to keep moving forward and to try to improve our craft and to not let the echo chamber of the internet and how bad things are get in the way of what we're trying to accomplish. Enjoying the content? Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more tips, tutorials, and interviews to level up your surface pattern design journey.